Welcome back. 2014 brought a fair amount of change locally and all over the country. We experienced a big shift in government to altering legislation, impacting the life of many farmers. To get a more in-depth look through the eyes of one of our country's top leaders, we met with Canada's former Minister and Agriculture and current Member of Parliament, Jerry Ritz.
So this year has been a big year of change. You've been a Minister of Agriculture since 2007. How has this change been for you?
Well, it's like culture shock, really. It's from going from a 100-mile-an-hour schedule to a 60-mile-an-hour schedule. It's quite different, actually. I mean, I spent the first half of my career in opposition and then the second half as a minister in the cabinet. So it's a big change again.
Talking about change, as a country, Liberals in power, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, of course, I don't like it. I think that we'll see some major retractions on a lot of things that we've done. I know the ruling on country of origin labeling comes out tomorrow to WTO, and I don't see it in anybody's mandate letter. I don't see it in the throne speech, so I see it sort of being ignored. Softwood lumber agreement is up for renewal. I don't see anybody tackling that in their mandate letters or in the throne speech. I know these are all high-level umbrella type announcements, but at the same time, these are issues that are very specific to especially Western Canada, and I don't see anybody picking those up. So I'm a little bit concerned as to how Western Canada will be treated as the Liberals govern.
Right, and Justin Trudeau promising a lot of change. Is this the change that we want here in Alberta, Saskatchewan? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, some of it possibly, but it's how they go about it, how quickly they put it in play. The climate change talks that are going on in Paris right now will not be friendly to Canada. That's one of the reasons that we as a government pulled out of the Kyoto Accord. Of course, the United States never even signed on to it. So when you start getting these types of targets as they generate, and they're fixed, they're binding, they're legally binding, and so on, and if you sign on to those and the major emitters don't, then of course we're in for a rough ride here in Canada. That was the problem with the Kyoto Accord, and that's why we pulled out as a government. If we'd have stayed in to the end of that particular month when we did remove ourselves, we would have owed something like $14 billion to the polluters, which makes no sense.
Right. So, Mr. Ritz, you have been a farmer for a long time, over 20 years.
My background, I was born and raised on the farm. I've kept my hand in. I wasn't allowed to farm when I'm cabinet in the Ministry of Agriculture, but certainly my family's still involved very much so.
Well, you can say it's kind of in your blood. You've been doing it for a long time.
Absolutely.
And then on top of that, Minister of Agriculture, you're probably familiar with Bill 6.
Oh yeah.
Stirring up a lot of controversy.
Hard to miss it.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a very cynical move. I think it's a wrong-headed move. Certainly we want to make sure that our kids are safe. We want to make sure that farmers are safe. But at the end of the day, this is a very intrusive piece of legislation. They're putting into play January 1 without really any consultation other than the blowback they're getting now. I've spent a lot of years listening to the NDP wax on about the family farm and how it has to be the mainstay of and everything has to remain a family farm. But in one fell swoop, the Alberta NDP have taken the family right out of the farm. With the intrusive nature of this particular piece.
You've been on both sides. You've seen the government side and the farm life.
Sure.
Should farmers in this area, should they be worried?
Well, I think they are. I don't think it's a matter of should they be worried. I think they actually are. You see the number of farmers that are showing up at some of these rallies and so on like that, and they're quite excited, and rightly so, in my estimation. What I've read and what I've seen on Bill C6, a lot of people are saying this is the thin edge of the wedge. The NDP in Alberta have nothing to lose. They're basically a Calgary, Edmonton-centered party. Rural Alberta, take it. They really aren't interested in it. So I'm very concerned about it. Having been raised on the farm, from 8, 9 years old, you're around equipment, you're running some of it that you could handle, depending on your size and your ability. But certainly it was a part of my pride in my upbringing that I was able to get on a horse, go down to the pasture, ride the fence, without a cell phone, without anybody looking after me. That's 40 years ago, and come home at the end of the day knowing that I'd done a day's work. Now that's not allowed. It's absolutely. I don't know the word. I couldn't say the word on camera.
Okay. Maybe.
I'm sure a lot of farmers are at the rallies, and rightly so.
Yeah. So as much change as this will bring to the farmers, this has implications for Albertans, people in the area. Maybe what are your thoughts on that?
Well, agriculture is the third largest contributor to the country's GDP. It's a big part of Alberta's GDP, even now, especially now with the oil patch, going backwards as it is. So, to send these kinds of shockwaves through one of the stable entities in your economy makes no sense politically or practically.
Thank you so much for meeting with us. We
My
really
pleasure.
appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Always good. Thank you.
Well, that's all we have for this edition of Year in Review. Thank you so much for joining us. From everyone here at Newcap News, we hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'm Annika Knopfade, and this has been a look back at the year that was. Have a great day.